Chapter 2, called Part 2. Yet, as he drove, his thoughts turned in another unexpected way. If he found that a lot of money was hidden somewhere in the estate, he would get a very big percentage fee for handling Father Tom's will. He thought about that until the truck went over a large bump, and he remembered that the old man had given him the work as a favor. Father Tom had never told him about any large amount of money. The reason probably was that he never expected John to handle the money, and, more than that, to get some outrageous fee for doing so. Or had he? Had the old man planned all this? Was John right to consider charging so much money? After all, he was an attorney, and lawyers had fees. Yes, he was right, he thought, but as Father Tom always liked to say, the devil is just around the corner, so better come to Mass and serve Jesus and his church first. In other words, don't make money out of Father Tom's unfortunate death. John smiled at his moral collapse into personal greed, yet he knew the thoughts would not go away. No one was going to blame him for thinking like an attorney. He might be outspoken in helping the unfortunate, but he wasn't going to be foolish and sentimental. At least, not anymore. He sat back into the warm truck seat and went over in his head some anecdotes he had heard about the Chestertown Monastery. The Catholic brothers at the old building were known by the locals as the foot washers, due to their peculiar tradition of showing absolute humility in face of outsiders. They would carry a small towel and basin of water and ask to bathe the feet of those around them. The monastery had been constructed in the years following the Civil War by wealthy veterans from both the Federal and Southern armies. After they had laid down their weapons, they had desired forgiveness for the killing they had done during the battles. The effort towards humility was, according to the writers of the founders, the best way to seek this forgiveness, and the foot washing was derived not only from the Bible, but also from nursing work done by most of these men as they served their wounded comrades and former enemies in camp hospitals. The monastery had declined in recent years, since all these benefactors were long dead, and their descendants had not chosen the religious way and had found other ways to spend what was left of any family wealth. By now, John had traveled off the main highway. He had passed the monastery sign and was driving up a single-lane blacktop road bordered by dense pine tree growth. Deep ditches covered with vines and undergrowth threatened his small Chevrolet pickup on each side of the narrow road. Little space was available for breakdowns on this blacktop, and if a car had come from the opposite direction, pulling over would have been dangerous, or more likely impossible. The road to the monastery showed little upkeep. The cracks in the tar filled with patches of crabgrass that sprouted from the rain puddles collecting in these low places. These weeds thriving from the lack of traffic, vehicular or human. Ahead, John saw a black and white mist coming over the road and going up into the sky as if a cloud had descended into the shade of the nearby forest of pine. As his truck entered the cloud, John noticed that the mist was getting thick and actually boiling upward. He realized that it was smoke. He smelled burning wood, as if a campfire was flaming somewhere nearby. His eyes began to water. The smoke was too heavy to be coming from a campfire. Somewhere ahead of him, a brush fire had got out of control. John slowed his vehicle, the broken driver's seat shifting slightly under his body as he touched the brakes. Wisps of choking fumes entered the car. He pulled the truck as far off the road as he could and turned off the noisy engine. He got out and walked forward, holding his hands over his face to fight the fumes. Not far in front of him, he heard a rumbling sound and the crashing of timbers. Bright flames became visible in the smoke, flames licking at the clapboards of an old building. The monastery was on fire. He knew this was a structure because of its size, more than 100 feet in length and very tall. The fire had already engulfed the nearest section of the structure. He could see from the weathered boards that the building had been in poor repair. Around him, bits of burning wood were crashing to the ground and igniting the dry grass. He ran by a large flat wooden board, suspended by chains on posts, the name Chestertown Monastery on it over the drawing of a silver-painted crucifix with the date 1865. He stopped 100 or so feet from the front of the building and looked up at what was visible of the front wall beneath the flames. "Oh my God," he said as the fire roared toward the sky, devouring old dry wood. Above, John saw several turkey buzzards circling him overhead, high above the smoke. Flames were coming from the broken glass of windows on the facade, and the old white clapboard paint was peeling from the heat. The front door was solid flame, which tore at the carved Victorian scrolls of the once rich architectural detail, and the steep steps of the approach were covered with burning fallen timbers. 6 chimneys rose at equal divisions along the roofline, flames licking at them. The closest chimney was tilting and already losing some of its bricks. These fell one by one, bounding over the roof shingles to the ground, only a few feet in front of him.